Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today. So, today we're just going to have an introduction on why we need Sanskrit for Ayurveda. So, today being Vijayadashami, we're just having a brief introduction. This is not a formal class. This is rather a session, a brief discussion on why we need Sanskrit in the first place. Because now there are so many translations that are available in various languages. We have translations in English as well as local languages. So, why do we need Sanskrit in the first place? Because many people still feel it's outdated. So, first thing is it is the language in which the acharyas have conveyed their thoughts to us. So whenever you need to talk, you would like to talk to someone, you would like to talk to them in their language, right? That's when you get the connection. So if you're going to talk to them using a Google Translate on your app, you might be able to establish a conversation, but there'll definitely be some breach of information, some loss of information somewhere or the other. It's like it's in one of the contexts, Acharya Chakrapani says it's like they're transferring honey from one vessel to the other. No matter how carefully you transfer honey, when you transfer it from one vessel to the other, there will be a little loss, and that's what happens when we use the help of translations. For example, let's take an example of a herb. We have a plant called haritaki. It has got so many synonyms in our text. For example, there is a synonym called abhaya. There is a synonym called avyatha. There is a synonym called kayastha. There is a synonym called rasayana phala. There are so many words that convey the same meaning as haritaki. So if you're going to translate it, you will probably write it as Chebulic myrobalan, or you'll give the scientific name for it, which is correct, which is true. It's not, I'm not saying it's wrong. But why has the Acharya used the word kayastha in a particular place? Kayaha tishtati anaya iti kayastha, that by which the body sustains itself or stays strong is kayastha. Nasti bhayam yasyaha sa abhaya, that which removes fear or that by which we become fearless, that is abhaya. Na vyatha avyatha. Or rasayanena phalati is rasayana phala. So there are so many synonyms when each synonym gives a different meaning of haritaki, even though it may be conveying the same meaning, even though it may be talking about the same plant, there are so many synonyms to it. And why has a particular synonym being used at a particular context? So when we dig deep into that, we're definitely going to we're going to gain a greater insight. And that applies not only to herbs but also to diseases. For example, there is a disease called arshas, which is translated as hemorrhoids. So it also has different synonyms. For example, there is a synonym called durnama. What is durnama? Dur is dushtam. Dushtam nama yasya durnama. So that which has a very bad name. Arshas is a disease which makes people feel very delicate. They cannot express it to people around them very easily. It's a delicate situation, right? So that is durnama. Dushtam nama yasya durnama. Then there is also another word called gudakilaha. What is gudakilaha? Gudasya, that is apanasya, मूलद्वारस्य इत्यर्थः यद्वा गुदे कीलः इव. Kila is a nail. Okay, so it is like a nail from the mooladwara or gudadwara. So that meaning is conveyed when you just look at the name gudakilaha, you get an idea of what it is. It is a descriptive word. Then there is another word called gudankuraha. So what is gudankuraha? Gude ankuraha. Ankuraha is prarohaha. Like when we germinate a seed, we get a radicle and a plumule. In botany, we have studied. So the small sprout that we get on top from the seed is the ankuraha or prarohaha. So gudankuraha is there is it is like an ankura or praroha coming out from the gudam. So gudam adhikritya prarohavat utpadyate valihi. So adhikritya is, it is based on the guda. Guda is its substratum or base, and from there we get an ankura. So that is gudam adhikritya prarohavat utpadyate. See how beautifully the entire disease, the presentation is described just with the word gudankuraha. Then we have another word called anamakam. What is anamakam? We think that something which has no name is anamakam. But what does it actually mean? Anam is jivanam. Anam, jivanam, amayati. Amayati is, it gives a disease. Rogagrastam karoti. Anam amayati iti anamakam. It's not something which is nameless. Anamakam sounds like something which is nameless, but it's not so. Anam amayati iti anamakam. Anam jivanam amayati rogagrastam karoti. That which makes life associated with disease, that which makes life filled with disease, or connected with disease, that is anamakam. So this word gives a deeper meaning to the condition, where we get the meaning that the patient has other sufferings apart from the mass that is grown out of the guda region. He also has other systemic conditions, so these symptoms are also revealed by this name anamakam. So this is why we need Sanskrit. If we're just going to translate it, yes, everything is going to get translated to piles or hemorrhoids, but that is not giving us so many different aspects to the disease, so many different meanings to the disease. Why? What happens? So this is one of the limitations of relying upon translations. Then there is also, we there is a limitation in vocabulary. So for example, let's just talk about vayu. So vayu has got so many different other synonyms. Vayu is also samiranaha, anilaha, pavanaha. There are so many words just to depict vayu, but when you translate it to English, you're only going to say air. Okay. So you, somewhere the life is lost when we translate. There are so many different meanings, like we saw in Arshas. There are so many different meanings that are conveyed when we use the original word. But when you translate it, it all boils down to one word called air. Kabha. How do you possibly translate kapha? When you translate it, it all boils down to a word called phlegm. Amrita. Amrita is such a beautiful word where it says like it is nectar. It is something which can never die. It's something which is so valuable. It is always valuable. It adds value to your life. You can just call it guruchi. You can just, would you just call it a plant? Or there are so many different meanings that are conveyed when you say amrita. So there are, these are the limitations we undergo or we experience when we study Ayurveda through translations. So cutting the long story short, we need Sanskrit to study Ayurveda in its real sense. So what do we do about it? Okay, we may be in our UG, we may be in our PG, we may be a practitioner with several years experience. We might have somehow sailed through without the knowledge of Sanskrit, but what do we do now? There are four main steps that we need to follow to study Sanskrit through for Ayurveda. So that is, first of all, we need to know Sandhi. So Sandhi is the knowledge by which we know where and how to split the words. So today we had a workshop, a national online workshop called Pipatisha, where we discussed Swara Sandhis, and we had a pretty good response, and people were able to actually get some confidence that they can read on their own, because a lot of people have difficulty in splitting the words because we don't know where to split, because a lot of words are long. Some words are so long that they occupy a whole line. So where do you split? That knowledge comes through Sandhi. And then we have Samasaha. So Samasa is the process where two or more words are combined into one word. So when we know samasa, we know a lot of other things. We know what are the words involved in the formation of a compound word, why they have been arranged that way, and what meaning they convey when combined. There are so many different aspects or insights we get when we understand samasa. And then we come to Anvaya. Anvaya is the process by which we rewrite a shloka in a sentence form. So sometimes it is jumbled in a shloka. The words in a sentence are jumbled in a shloka. So what we do while writing them as Anvaya is we rearrange everything and we make them into a logical, easily understood use of dictionaries, the use of Amara Kosha, the use of Shabda Kalpadruma. These dictionaries are essential to help us get the vyutpatti of certain words, the derivation of certain words. Because just like we saw, when you say arshas, it has a certain meaning. When you say durnama, it has a certain meaning. So these meanings we get from commentaries and from koshas such as Amara Kosha and Shabdakalpadruma. So these are some basics that we need to do. For example, I'll tell you why we need to know samasa. There is a popular shloka we are all familiar with, and that shloka is Samadosha Samagnischa Samadhatu Malakriyah Prasannatmendriya Manaha Swastha Ityabhidiyate. So this is a very, very, very common shloka. Almost all of us know it. It is the definition of the word swastha. But where most of us go wrong is in decoding the samasa here. There is a totally new outlook we get when we look at the samasa. What is samadoshaha? Samadoshaha does not mean balance in dosha. Samagnihi does not mean balance in Agni. Samadhatu Malakriya does not mean proper function of Mala and Kriya. Now you think I'm wrong now? The basic meaning that they convey here is through a special type of samasa called Bahuvrihi Samasaha. So in Bahuvrihi Samasa, we're talking about something else that is not depicted in or mentioned in the main word. For example, Samadoshaha, when you expand it, when you write the Vigraha, it is actually Samaha Doshaha Yasya Saha Samadoshaha. The person who has Samadosha, or who the person who has doshas in Samavastha, is known as Samadoshaha. Samagnischa, the person who has Samagni is known as Samagnihi. The person whose Dhatu Malakriya is in Samyavastha is Samadhatu Malakriya. Samadhatu Malakriya is actually referring to a person. Samadosha is referring to a person. For example, we say, like if I have to tell you in Hindi, we say Nishchay Buddhi Bano. This is a sentence. Nishchay Buddhi Bano. That means become Nishchay Buddhi. What does it mean? It means become someone who has Nishchay Buddhi. So Nishchay Buddhi is referring to a person and not to the Buddhi itself. So Prasannatmendriya Manaha is Prasannani Atmendriya Manamsi Yasya Saha Prasannatmendriya Manaha. The person whose Atma Indriya Manas are in Prasanna Avastha is known as Prasannatmendriya Manaha. Idrishaha Janaha, a person who has all these qualities, a person who is so, Saha Swasthaha Ityabhidiyate. He is called Swastha. He is called healthy. So now you know Swastaha is a person and not a state. What is a state? Swasthyam is a state. Swasthyam is health. Swastaha is a healthy person. And all these words refer to the person and not to the state. So now your outlook has probably changed towards the shloka. Samadoshaha manushyaha, samadoshaha janaha, samagnihi janaha, samadhatu malakriyaha janaha, प्रसन्नात्मेन्द्रिय मनाः जनः स्वस्थः भवति स्वस्थः इति अभिधीयते. So this is why we need the knowledge of samasa, and then we need the knowledge of sandhi, because I think we have all experienced difficulties in splitting the words. So there I don't have to explain much. So we often go wrong because if we split it in the wrong place, we also land up in a different meaning. Okay, so for example, I can take the basic nidana of jwara from Charak Nidana. There is a long stretched a trail of words. सः वायुः यदा प्रकुपितः Pravishya Amashayam Ushmana Saha. After this, we have a long word that is printed without any space. Mishri Bhuyadyamahara Parinama Dhatum is how it is printed. And how most people split it is Mishri Bhuyat Yam Ahara Parinama Dhatum, which is wrong. Okay, so how do we actually split it? Mishri Bhuya Adyam Ahara Parinama Dhatum Rasanamanam Anvavetya and so on. So when you split it right, you get the meaning right. When you don't split it right, you either don't land up in any meaning at all, or you land up in a completely different wrong meaning. So that is the importance of Sandhi and Padacheda. And why do we need Anvayaha? You need Anvayaha again to land up in the right meaning. For example, I'll tell you this shloka from Charaka Chikitsa. मारुतः प्राणवाहिनी स्रोतांसि आविश्य कुप्यति उरस्तः कफम् उद्धूय हिक्काश्वासान् करोति सः घोरान् प्राणोपरोधाय प्राणिनां पंच पंच च. So I'll repeat this, and what I want you to think is the word urastha is related to which dosha? Marutah pranavahini srotamsi avishya kupyati urastah kapam uddhuya hikka shwasan karoti saha. So what most people say is urasta kapam, urasta kapam, urastaha kapam uddhuya. So it is the kapam in the chest, urasta kapam. But grammatically speaking, urastaha is not related to kapam, it is related to marutaha. And that knowledge we get when we know how to do anvaya, how to apply the concept of visheshana, visheshya, vibhakti, vachana, and linga. The whole meaning takes a new dimension when we do the anvaya correctly. So basically, cutting the long story short, what we need right now is a thorough knowledge of Sanskrit, starting from Sandhi, Samasa, and Anvaya, and then extending it to the use of koshas such as Shabdakalpadruma and Amara Kosha, and then applying it in reading the Samhitas and taking the help of tikas or vyakhyanas such as Chakrapani or whatever Samhita you're reading. And then if you're still not getting the meaning after doing all of this, then you can take the help of translations. And even in translations, no offense to anyone, please use translations in Indian languages first and then go to English, because even though English translators have done a very good job in conveying the meaning, somewhere there is a distance that arises from the acharya. So what we require is we need to talk directly to the acharya. You talk to the person. If I'm talking to you, it's best if I talk to you in your own language. If I can talk to you, if I'm going to a foreign land, I can talk to you using Google Translate. I can talk to you using some app. I can talk to you using a mediator. But number one, that's very difficult. Number two, we might land up in a comedy of errors, right? You might not understand what I'm asking you for, and you might tell me something else, and that would you you might land up in a comical situation, and sometimes it may even be a serious situation. When it comes to Ayurveda is a life science. We cannot accept comedy here, right? So we should leave, as doctors, no space for any kind of flaws because of not being able to understand what the acharya is trying to convey to us. So the first thing is talk directly to the acharyas. Use all these tools of koshas and vyakhyanas. If you're still not able to, then use translations in Indian languages, be it Hindi, English, Hindi, Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, whatever it is. Look at Indian translations first and then look at English translations, because at every step we're moving away from the Acharya. So try to be as close as possible to the Acharya to get the direct meaning. And for this, we at Nimit Educations are here to help you, because we are taking Sanskrit for Ayurveda classes regularly on a weekly basis, and you can contact us on nimitventures@gmail.com, and you can also visit our website www.nimitventures.com. where we will be helping you connect with us, and we could schedule classes, and we will also be posting content regularly on this regard. And that way we hope to become better practitioners of Ayurveda. We hope to grow together, so that as better practitioners we can render better healthcare to the society, thereby marching towards a better tomorrow. And I thank all of you for joining today for this official or informal inauguration of the website and the channel. Thank you so much once again. Namaste.